Rhode Island, in Massachusetts, as well as the city of Washington, D.C., to implement this historic program, which will, for the first time, put a limit on the amount of emissions that can come from our transportation sector. Through the Transportation Climate Initiative, we'll reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 26% by 2032. We cannot meet our goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions 45% by 2030 unless we have the tools to do it, because the transportation sector, vehicle traffic, the combustion of gasoline and diesel fuels is the largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions in our economy, in our state. We can't meet our obligations to our children, to our grandchildren, to the next generations to tackle this climate crisis unless we have the tools to do it. Through the Transportation Climate Initiative program, we're going to generate $1 billion of investment here in the state of Connecticut over the next decade. And so cutting carbon emissions doesn't mean that we stop growing, that we stop producing investment and transforming our communities. It doesn't mean that we shut things down. It means that we're going to be able to grow our economy. It's going to mean that we're going to be able to expand on projects like this and provide for better walkable communities that are thriving downtowns, the types of things that people are looking for and seeking out. We saw during COVID, so many people moving into our state because they really value that quality of life here in the state. We've heard from large employers, as we talked about the Transportation Climate Initiative program, how excited they are about the types of investments we can make with TCI to deliver the quality of life that workers are looking for, and that it's going to help retain and attract people here to our state. With the Transportation Climate Initiative, with $1 billion of investment, we're going to be able to do so many things to advance clean transportation solutions. We'll be able to expand on the availability of electric vehicles for folks who want to opt for those cleaner transportation sources, shifting our school buses, shifting our transit buses, shifting our passenger vehicles over to electric, building out electric vehicle charging infrastructure so we can end range anxiety across our state. We're going to be able to improve our transportation system, help reduce idling with smarter transportation traffic signals, and investments in roundabouts and other types of improvements that reduce emissions across our state and provide for more convenience and more safety for pedestrians. And we're going to be able to do projects like this to attract investment in transit-oriented development that helps limit the amount of time that people have to spend in their cars on commutes and getting around to the services that they want. And these types of projects, what we're doing with the Transportation Climate Initiative program, is going to position Connecticut to be at the front of the line for federal dollars that are going to become available from the Biden administration. We've heard from the Department of Transportation, from Secretary Buttigieg, that we have a federal partner that wants to reduce emissions in our transportation sector. And by having these dollars available through TCI, we will be able to leverage those and attract those federal investments to expand transit-oriented development all across the state. That's the vision. But to talk about the vision, I want to just introduce first Mayor Stewart. Aaron Stewart here in the city of New Britain has been a leader and a visionary on transforming New Britain, transforming the downtown here. This project, I want you to hear from her about her vision and how she's driven this project forward. It gives you a sense of what we'll be able to do all across the state if we have funding available from the Transportation and Climate Initiative. So let me introduce first Mayor Stewart.
Thank you, Commissioner Dykes, and thank you, Governor, for being here today. Senator, thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner. Listen, I love every opportunity to brag about everything New Britain has done when it comes to transit-oriented development. For those of you who know me, it's been a cornerstone of my time here as mayor. It was shortly after I was elected that the CT Fast Track opened. And what I learned very quickly was that Fast Track was here, but there really wasn't a robust development plan around Fast Track. Taking advantage of reutilizing and reimagining all of the parcels for development around mass transit, that clean mass transit that CT Fast Track brought to us. It was because of opportunities that the state made available to us that projects like this is what you see behind you. This wouldn't have happened without access to additional grant money that made the developers more enticed to put this project here. What this used to be was the old police department. So formerly the New Britain Police Department, it took a lot of work to get this building built from the ground up, but it is the first ground up development that we saw in this city in decades. Brand new housing, all because of its access to mass transit because of CT Fast Track. Now, it's not just New Britain. You have communities all over the state that could benefit from opportunities like this if they're made available to them. And that's what I know the governor and his staff are looking to do with this initiative. But it's more than that. It's about clean energy as well. The city of New Britain started a smart city plan, which I know Commissioner Dykes is familiar with. It's been a cornerstone of a lot of our driving philosophy as well. So we intertwine our transit-oriented development with our clean energy, our smart city initiatives, everything looking at reducing our carbon footprint and what can the municipality do within what we have to do that. But we need great partners in order to make that happen. It's not just opportunity with TOD money. You're looking at community connectivity grants that have been made available as well. The City of New Britain has utilized the space that we have to implement new bike and pedestrian lanes that haven't been here before. We have a group called Bike New Britain that was formed because of it. Who knew we had so many cyclists in town? And we actually rent them a small space right up this street for them to repair bikes, and it's worked out really well. But we are continuing to apply for those community connectivity grants that were made available. The Beeline Trail is one of the most recent ones. This was money that was made available through Capital Region Council of Governments, but it's going to be connecting the multi-use trail from Fast Track all the way through New Britain, through Plainville, and eventually connect to the Farmington Heritage Trail for people to get so much use, whether they're walking, biking, running. I prefer the walking, probably not running very much. But the point is that a lot of these projects wouldn't be able to happen if it wasn't for some type of additional assistance that drives us. So your local leaders are the ones that have the vision. I mean, we know how to use the money best to benefit our community, but we need the money to be available to us. And let's face it, when you have a lot of our communities, especially our urban areas that are struggling for dollars wherever they can get it, it's that extra push that we need to be able to make these projects happen. So it's a pleasure for me to be here today, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Stewart, for your leadership on this project and for everything that you're doing. As you heard from the mayor, our communities can be and are engines of change and engines of improvement in addressing our climate crisis and providing for better air quality, better quality of life, if we invest in them. Our citizens want these types of amenities. They want this type of livable, walkable community, and it's a choice. It's a choice for us to continue to invest at the scale that is out there to enable this all across Connecticut. The Department of Transportation has been a great partner with DEEP in advancing the Transportation Climate Initiative, and a great partner with municipalities all across the state in advancing transit-oriented development. And here to talk more about this project and how we can do more of these types of projects with TCI is Deputy Commissioner of DOT, Garrett Ucalito.
So thank you, Commissioner Dykes and Mayor Stewart. Senator Haskell, good to see you, and Governor, of course, thank you. So my name is Garrett Ucalito. I'm the Deputy Commissioner at the DOT. I first want to just start out by congratulating New Britain on what they've done to transform this city. When I first came back to Connecticut several years ago and saw the opportunity and the investments that they were making to capitalize off of Fast Track, which the state spent so much time and funding to build out, it's really transformed the city, and it's all because of the vision of city leadership at the helm, Mayor Stewart. So congratulations. The DOT's been a proud partner over the past 5+ years with strategic investments here, from Fast Track, safe sidewalks, bike lanes, crosswalks to make it easier to get to Fast Track, but also the Beehive Bridge, which really reconnects the city over Route 72 and makes it feel like it's one city. You don't have that artificial barrier anymore. It's a gateway to the city. It's probably one of the most beautiful bridges in our state. Don't tell the DOT employees I said that, but but now we're asking, like, how can we help New Britain and cities like that and towns like that to ensure we can continue to support them for over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And without the new funding streams proposed by Governor Lamont to stabilize the STF, without the Transportation and Climate Initiative, simply put, we can't help them. And without these funding streams, without TCI, we can't expand transit service to unserved areas. We can't increase frequency and reliability. without TCI, we can't fund things like the Community Connectivity Grant Program, which Mayor Stewart has mentioned, in which we have awarded 90 grants now across the state over 3 rounds. And there's so much more demand to make more livable, walkable communities. Without these funding streams to support the STF, we can't be a true partner to New Britain and other cities and towns to understand the nexus between transportation and economic growth. And lastly, without these funding streams, without TCI, we will not be able to capitalize off of the federal infrastructure plan that the Biden-Harris administration is pushing. A cornerstone of that is combating climate change, increasing, combating racial inequalities, and ensuring that we reconnect cities and undo the damage of past infrastructure investments. TCI will enable us to continue that and to undo a lot of those wrongs that have been plaguing our communities and make Connecticut a place that people want to live and want to grow their family, want to work, and want to stay during our COVID recovery. So there's a path forward to help mitigate all this, and I really want to thank Governor Lamont and our elected leaders. Senator Haskell has been a true champion in this effort as well, for coming up with innovative transportation solutions and ensuring the DOT can continue to support our local communities to try and make this change happen and replicate the success of New Britain all across our state. So thank you, Governor.
Thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner. And next I want to introduce Senator Will Haskell. Senator Haskell and I had the opportunity to share a Zoom stage a couple weeks ago when we spoke to Deep's first ever Youth Climate Summit. It's a great event. We know that young people are especially concerned about how we're addressing the climate crisis, and are especially interested in the types of solutions that we can deliver to provide a clean transportation system that is going to attract and retain our young people, here in the state of Connecticut. And we're so fortunate to have Senator Haskell as a chair of the Transportation Committee and a great leader on addressing climate change and a voice of youth in the legislature. Senator Haskell, welcome.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. It's great to see you. Thank you to Mayor Stewart for having us here in New Britain. It's really an honor to be with you all today. My name is Will Haskell. I represent the 26th District in the State Senate. I also serve as the Senate Chairman of the Transportation Committee. But really, I'm here today to speak to you as the youngest member of the General Assembly. Commissioner Dykes mentioned that she and I recently had an opportunity to speak with climate change activists and policy advocates, young people across the state, high school students and college students. And I can tell you that they are earnestly looking to Hartford and wondering whether the state legislature is going to stand up for their future, whether lawmakers are going to stand up for clean air and clean water for their generation to enjoy and for their children's generation to enjoy. TCI, the Transportation Climate Initiative, it's a pretty simple idea. It says that if you are going to pump pollutants into the air, well, then you also have to pay for the asthma that those pollutants create. It says that if you're going to pump pollutants into the air, well, then you also have to pay to pave the way for green infrastructure. You've got to pay for electric vehicle charging stations. You've got to pay to bring our transportation infrastructure, our public transportation infrastructure, into the 21st century. You've got to pay if you're going to pump diesel exhaust into the lungs of children each and every day as they ride to and from school. Carbon emissions right now, they're at a historic low. It's one of the few silver linings of this pandemic. And as we all itch to get back to normal, let's make sure that we don't necessarily return to the old normal. Let's keep carbon emissions low. As the folks in Washington like to say, let's build back better. We don't need to return to historically high carbon emissions. We can build a greener future here in Connecticut if the legislature steps up and passes TCI. So as the Senate Chair of the Transportation Committee and as a member of the Environment Committee, I tell you, I am excited to cast my vote in favor of this program. Thanks to Governor Lamont's leadership, we've reached a historic crossroads in this state. Now is the time to decide, are we going to keep talking about that inconvenient truth of climate change? Or are we going to actually do something about it? Is climate change an academic anxiety that we're going to teach children in school? Or is it an existential threat to our globe, to our state, and to our community? Let me just close by saying this. The bill is going to receive a vote tomorrow in the Environment Committee thanks to the leadership of people like Senator Cohen, Representative Gresko, Representative Roland Lamar, and so many more. I know that most of my colleagues in the legislature, Democrats and Republicans, they believe that climate change is real. But now they are faced with the question, do they also believe that it's our responsibility to do something about it? If so, well, then they're going to have to vote yes on the Transportation Climate Initiative. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Governor Lamont, for bringing us together.
Well, last but not least, I'm really excited to introduce Governor Lamont. You know, through his leadership, he understands and has been a great leader on addressing the climate crisis and helping to advance environmental protection for the benefit of our kids and our families, for cleaner air. But, you know, he's a great collaborator, and he is someone who is helping to position Connecticut's leadership in a way that is bringing other states to the table and is going to bring the federal government to the table to help us achieve the goals and our vision for transit-oriented development and a cleaner future for Connecticut. If we move forward with TCI this year, he has commitments from Massachusetts, from Rhode Island, and from DC that they will go forward as well. So we will quadruple our impact through our leadership on addressing transportation climate emissions by bringing those other states and getting them to make commitments at the same time. That's how regional partnerships work, and that's how Governor Lamont has really been a great leader in working together with our sister states to leverage and magnify the impact that we can have here in Connecticut. And at the same time, through his partnerships in DC, we know that we're going to be able to attract a lot of federal funding by advancing the TCI program. So without further ado, thrilled to introduce Governor Ned Lamont.
Hey, thank you, Katie. And yeah, Will, you're absolutely right. When they allowed people in the Capitol building and there'd be a crowd standing outside the governor's office, the younger they were, the more likely they were to be talking about climate change and global warming. Maybe they have a little longer term perspective than some of us do. And they just remind me every day we're doing this for the kids. And Aaron, we spent a lot of time talking about transportation-oriented development. I wanted to be here just to remind people what it is. I mean, this is what it is. Here is Fast Track right next door. And Aaron tells me it gets a lot of use during the week and on weekends, really interconnecting New Britain and Hartford and everybody along the way. And this is the type of development you see along the way. This is housing. This is affordable housing, housing for young people. By the way, young people tell me cars are so yesterday. And this is one of the reasons why, because you can get right into Hartford back and forth. And in order for us to continue doing transit-oriented development, we got to be able to continue to pay for more transit and more affordable housing. And that's what this event is all about today. People talk a lot about infrastructure. Garrett was saying, down in Washington, Mayor Pete, they're going to be unrolling the big infrastructure plan very soon, probably 80-20, 90-10. But the state of Connecticut's got to put up its share. We got to put up our share out of a recurring revenue stream. And that could be a transportation climate initiative, because that frees up money. Don't listen to what, Yankee said. Right now we spend $400 million subsidizing public transportation. We'll be able to use some of the TCI money to help out with bus service and the such, and that frees up other monies to help with our transportation fund. Makes an enormous difference. That combined with the highway user fee on those big tractor trailer trucks that are tearing up our roads is how we're able to pay for more transportation oriented development, just like you're seeing here today. And Aaron, I'd like to test run an idea with you, which I think makes an awful lot of sense. We've got some federal funds that are coming in that help us with transportation now, and going forward we'll have TCI. I'd like to see less people in cars. I'd like to see more people taking Fast Track, more people taking the bus. So I'm going to propose to the legislature that we provide a free bus service on weekends this summer. Free bus service, everything from Fast Track to public buses, wherever they may be. I think would make an enormous difference. Hartford, come on out to New Britain. You wouldn't believe it. A lot is happening here on a Saturday or Sunday, or you can go into Hartford and enjoy as well. And we'll see if that works. We'll see whether people enjoy it. They see whether it makes a difference. And if it does, it's something we'll be able to continue going forward with things like the Transportation Climate Initiative. But these are the type of investments that make an enormous difference for a town, for a city like New Britain. Brings young people back here, brings our towns to life. What you were talking about in terms of walkability, what it means in terms of paths and bikes going forward. And Katie always reminds me about the kids again. and make sure we do this for them, and make sure we have a climate, we have a city, we have a state, we have a country, we have a world where they're going to want to be in 50 years, and we have to start taking care of that right now in a serious way. And that's why we're here today. Thank you.
We're happy to take a few questions if there are any.
Yes.
Here you're taking a relatively abstract idea and turning it into pointing out the concrete things that you resulted in. What did you learn from your 2019 experience about trying to get a major funding source? And you were a little bit, slow that year to point out what it would mean for organic development. Back to experience.
Well, two things. I mean, one, as I said, transit-oriented development is a concept. Let's show people exactly what it is. But everybody supports it. Everybody supports infrastructure. Everybody supports rail. Everybody supports what we want to do. They don't necessarily want to pay for it. And that's the other thing I've got to tie together. Down in Washington, they don't have to pay for it. They made us borrow it. We can't do that in the state of Connecticut. So I've got to work hard to show people these are investments worth making. They bring New Britain to life. They're great for young people, and they're amazing for the environment. Yeah, the question is, how are you going to pay for free bus service starting Memorial Day through Labor Day, maybe beyond that? We're going to do it right now out of the pandemic money, out of the rescue money. That we have enough money to do that at least for this summer, and maybe a little bit longer depending on how popular it is. And then with TCI, that's something we can extend for the foreseeable future if people want to pay for it.
How much money is that?
I think it's an incremental about $3.5 million. Isn't that what you told me? Just for this summer.
Governor, I'd like to get your thoughts on criticisms that particularly the tractor-trailer tax would just end up being added to our goods here in the state.
I'll hand this over to, in a second. But first of all, remember, these are tractor-trailer trucks that come up from Virginia where they pay a tax. They go through Pennsylvania where they have a toll. Then they go through New York where they pay a toll, and they have the highway user fee. And then they come into Connecticut where it's virtually scot-free compared to those other states. So first of all, that's a nonsense argument. We're just subsidizing everybody else's transportation system that way. And by the way, it's a microscopic piece of what we're trying to do to keep our roads and bridges in a state of good repair. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, happily. Thanks, Governor. So, as you mentioned, tractor trailers already pay as they travel through other states. Look at the district that I represent, borders the state of New York. When tractor trailers cross over the GW Bridge, they pay over $100. Now, the governor's highway use fee that he's proposed is at a maximum $15 to get across the entire state of Connecticut. Let's remember the fact that these are the very same tractor trailers, these heavyweight trucks, that are having the most wear and tear on our infrastructure. One GAO study from a few years ago found that a fully loaded tractor trailer does the equivalent damage of 6,000 cars. So if we're not going to ask all drivers on our roads to contribute to the upkeep of our infrastructure, well then surely we can agree, hopefully on a bipartisan basis, that those trucks, that those tractor trailers that have the most wear and tear on our infrastructure, that they should contribute to the upkeep, and that the burden shouldn't solely fall to the Connecticut taxpayer.
Mayor, you talked about all the benefits of state assistance. You did not speak to the subject of this news conference. Do you support?
Yeah, I won't. I'm here to talk about the benefits that transit-oriented development has had in the community, and that's what I spoke about today. But I'm not a member of the legislature. That's up to these guys to get it passed.
Well, what do you think Republicans, what are you hearing from your fellow Republicans about this? Surely you're hearing something.
No, nothing.
Not a word from any Republican about this initiative.
I'm the mayor. I'm not in the legislature.
I'm not asking about legislature, I'm asking about Republicans outside.
And I said I haven't heard anything.
I can't hear you. I couldn't hear you.
I said I haven't heard anything.
Thank you.
Is that loud enough?
I can hear you. That's why we have the microphone.
Governor, I had a question about the COVID metrics.
Yes.
Today, Connecticut is fourth in the nation in terms of cases per 100,000 residents. I mean, are you
Look, I think unconcerned is the wrong word. We watch this like a hawk, and I pay special attention to it. It's just worth remembering that we've done 20% more testing in the last 2 weeks, and that's reflected in the number of infections per 100,000. Those states in the South have almost stopped testing. So first of all, there's a certain imbalance in terms of how much testing you're doing and how much COVID per 100,000. But I was particularly struck by some numbers I was looking at today that you're right, our region is ticking up, and it's also ticking up in terms of fatalities. And there we got to watch very carefully. But it's worth noting that New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, all of our neighbors are in the top 10 in terms of fatalities in this country right now for this period of time. Connecticut is number 33 or 34. We are much lower. We are much lower because I think we are smart. We prioritized based upon age. We got vast majority of those people over the age of 50 vaccinated. So if you want to know what really concerns me, it's fatalities. And there I think the state's done a pretty good job in keeping that way below the average.
What about the reopening schedule? I mean, in the next week or two, there'll be further restrictions lifted. Is that going to go ahead as planned?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen in the next week or two. I don't think, maybe a little bit in terms of outside sports and the such. I think right now we know where we want to be. That is continuing to wear the mask, especially if you're in close company, the social distancing, the things that President Biden and the CDC are so particularly important. And we're doing that in association with all of our neighboring governors and making sure that we maintain that. Look, we're so close to getting through this thing. This is the time to make sure we don't take our eye off the ball.
Also off topic, Governor, referencing comments that the Vice President made last week, does Connecticut have any intention to work with the White House concerning the situation that's happening at the border?
The question is the situation on the border and how can we help? Look, we're going to have some conversations and see what this region or all the governors can do to provide a humane living space for some of those younger kids who are coming up here and unescorted. And Aaron, I don't know about New Britain, but I have heard from other mayors. There are a number of folks coming up from the border right now, just moving into some of our cities. So it's something we got to pay attention to. We can't put our head in the sand.
Well, last time this happened, there was talk about using Southbury training schools, opening up state facilities.
Yeah, we're nowhere close to any of that. We're talking to all the governors, seeing what, if anything, the region wants to do, what, if anything, the country wants to do on this, and see where the feds are. They haven't made up their mind whether they maybe create some, housing closer to the border, on one side of the border or the other. Maybe that's the easiest place for those kids to be. Any questions for Katie? Aaron? Will? Garrett? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks very much, Governor. It's good to be here. See you. Excited to get my vaccine April 1. I almost thought it was April Fool's Day.
That's right. I love it. You make her and the older lady here now. She's been for so many years. So what do we have to do? How do we get this over the finish?
I think we're going to be fine in environment. We've got some issues. Christine's there, big time.